Friends, welcome to Prashant IAS. So, before starting the today's video, I would like to tell you that I was unable to upload the videos on Saturday and Friday because I was ill. But from today onwards, I will try to upload the videos regularly. So friends, in the last class, we have discussed about the types of constitutions and the concept of constitutionalism. And from this class, we will continue our discussion further with the Constitution of India. So friends, if you want to know a constitution deeply, if you want to understand our constitution very clearly, if you want to make your concepts very strong, if you want to know our constitution very deeply, if you want to know why certain provisions are included in our constitution and why certain provisions are not included in our constitution. For example, India follows parliamentary form of system and it does not follow presidential form of system. So why this is so? Okay, there are certain fundamental rights which are guaranteed to us and there are certain rights which are not guaranteed to us as fundamental rights. So why this is so? Okay, in the elections of Lok Sabha, people vote to their representatives, but in the elections of Rajya Sabha, MLAs vote to the members of Rajya Sabha. So why this happens? Why this is so? The state of Jammu Kashmir had the special status. Okay, currently the special status of the state of Jammu and Kashmir has been taken away from by the Parliament of India. But earlier, Jammu and Kashmir had the special status in our constitution. So why this is so? Why Jammu and Kashmir had the special status? Okay, so if you want to know the answers of these questions, if you want to know that why our constitution behaves like this, if you want to know that why certain provisions are included in our constitutions, why these provisions are the part of our constitution, then you have to look towards the historical background of our constitution. So friend, every constitution has its historical background. Every constitution has its history. So our constitution also has its history. So to understand our constitution deeply, to understand our constitution very clearly, in this class I will teach you about the historical background of our constitution, that what were the all circumstances which resulted into the formation of our constitution. So friends, there were 5 phases. There are 5 phases of the development of our constitution. First phase was year 1600 to 1765. Second phase was year 1765 to 1858. Third phase was 1858 to 1919, fourth phase was 1919 to 1947 and fifth phase was 1947 to 1950. So first of all, I will teach you about the first phase of the development of our constitution. The first phase of the development of our constitution started in year 1600. So friends, what happened in year 1600? What happened that resulted into the starting of the development of our constitution? Okay, so friends, what happened that in 16th century there was the rule of Queen Elizabeth in Britain. Okay, so in 16th century there was the rule of Queen Elizabeth in Britain. People were very happy, people were very prosperous and wealthy, everything was good. Okay, at that point of time Britain had one of the best ship making industries. Okay, at that point of time in 16th century, imagine in 16th century Britain had one of the best ship making industries of the world. Okay, so the qualities of the ships of Britain was very good and very sophisticated. Okay, and Britishers were the people who loved to find new places, who loved to do maritime expeditions. Maritime expeditions means journey through seas and going to new places, journey through oceans and going to new places. Okay, then what happened that Britishers listened about the huge wealth of India. Okay, what happened, friends, that Britishers listened about the huge wealth of India, that India has huge wealth, India has a huge amount of money, India is a very wealthy country. You all must have listened that in ancient time India was known as golden world or Sone ki chidiya. So India was known as the golden world in ancient time because India has a huge amount of wealth. Moreover, the spices and the textile of India was famous all around the world. There was a huge demand of the spices and the textile of India, and moreover India has a huge wealth. India had a huge wealth at that point of time. So Britishers decided to do trade with India. Okay, so what Britishers decided? They decided to do trade with India. So friends, some British entrepreneurs decided to establish a company. They decided to start a company. So in year 1600, East India Company was established. Okay, so these British entrepreneurs established a company and the name of that company was East India Company. Okay, so friends, East India Company was established by the charter of Queen Elizabeth. Okay, so East India Company was established by a charter of Queen Elizabeth, and this charter was known as Charter of year 1600. Okay, so now I will tell you what were the provisions of the Charter of 1600. Okay, so Charter of 1600 was responsible for the formation of East India Company, or East India Company was established by the Charter of year 1600. So what were the provisions of the Charter of year 1600? So first of all, by this charter, company got monopoly to trade with East. Now what is the meaning of East? So East means all the countries lying to the east of Britain. For example, China, India, Indonesia. Okay, friends, at that point of time, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, these all countries were also the part of India. So whenever I will say India, you should also include these all countries with India. Okay, so what East means? East means the countries lying to the east of Britain, means India, China, okay, Indonesia and all these countries. So company got monopoly to trade with the eastern countries. Now what is the meaning of monopoly? Monopoly means only East India Company will do trade with the eastern countries. It means that no other company from Britain is allowed to do trade with eastern countries. Okay, why? Because what is charter? Charter is like a royal order. Okay, so it was a royal order that only and only East India Company will do trade with eastern countries. Okay, and no other country from Britain will do trade with eastern countries. So East India Company earned a huge profit. Why? Because it was the only company which was doing trade with India and other eastern countries. Why? Because it had the monopoly. Monopoly means only that company was allowed to do trade and other companies were not allowed to do trade. Okay. Now what was the second provision? So friends, all the management powers, all the powers related to the management, all the powers related to the management of the company were vested in a governor and a council consisting of 24 members. Okay, so there was a governor and a council consisting of 24 members to assist the governor, and all the management powers of the companies, all the regulating powers of the company were vested in governor and his council. Okay, then governor and his council had the power to make law for the management of the company. Okay, now what does it mean? It means that governor and his council had the legislative power. Okay, they had the power to make law for the company. They had the power to make law for the employees of the company. The employees working in the companies had to follow the law made by governor and his council. Okay, and why this is so? so that they can maintain the discipline in the company. Okay, so governor had the power to make law for the company so that he could maintain the discipline in the company, so that the employees do not become indisciplined. Okay, after that, governor and his council had the power to punish those who violate the law. It means that governor had the judicial powers also. What is judicial power? Judicial power means if you have the power to punish those who violate the law. So governor had the power to punish those employees who violate the law. So governor also had the judicial powers. Okay, friends, governor and his council also had the power to organize the missions and send the trading expeditions to East. Now what does it mean? It means that governor had the power, governor and his council had the exclusive power to choose the people, organize a mission and then send that mission to trade with the eastern countries. Okay, for this, governor and his council was not needed to take permission from any other institution. They were the sole body to decide that these people will go, these people will form a group and they will go and they will do trade with eastern country. So they had the power to organize and send trading expeditions to eastern countries. Okay, friends, in the beginning charter was granted only for 15 years. Okay, in the beginning charter was granted only for 15 years and it can also be renewed. Subjected to some conditions. So charter was only granted for 15 years, but the charter can be renewed, but company had to fulfill certain conditions to get the charter renewed. Which conditions? There were many conditions. For example, if company is not exploiting the interest of the people of Britain. Okay, if company is not ignoring or violating the interest of the people of Britain, then the charter will get renewed again. Okay, friends, so then what happened? That Britishers now came to India. Okay, what happened? That Britishers came to India and Britishers established, or East India Company established its first settlement in Surat in year 1612. Okay, so East India Company established its first settlement in Surat in 1612. So what is the meaning of settlement? Settlement means trading center, major trading center or factory. So in simple language we can say that East India Company established its first factory in Surat in year 1612. Now company established this factory by the permission of the Mughal Emperor Jahangir. So first of all, company obtained a royal farman from Emperor Jahangir. So what is a royal farman? Royal farman means order from the king, or we can say permission from the king. So first of all, East India Company took the permission of the Mughal Emperor Jahangir, and after taking the permission of the Mughal Emperor Jahangir, they established their factory in Surat. Okay friends, now Emperor Jahangir also granted land and other concessions to the company. Why? Because Britishers were new to India. East India Company was new to India. They didn't have land. They didn't have any other resources. So what Jahangir did? Jahangir provided them land and other concessions so that they can easily establish their company. Okay, and after Surat, company established its factories in Masulipatam and Madras in 1639. Now Masulipatam is also known as Machilipatnam. Okay, so after Surat, company established its factory in Masulipatam and Madras in year 1639. Friends, in this way, company started to establish more and more factories, and as the time passed, East India Company established its many factories. East India Company established its many factories all over India. Okay, and in the process, Bombay, Madras and Calcutta became the major presidencies of East India Company. So what is a presidency? So friends, the actual meaning of the word presidency, I will explain it to you when I will teach you modern Indian history. Okay, for the time being, you only understand that presidency means a major settlement of the Britishers, means a major colony of the Britishers where most of the factories or most of the factories of the East India Company were located. So okay, so what is presidency? Presidency means a major settlement where most of the factories were located together. Okay, so Bombay, Madras and Calcutta became their first presidencies. Okay, and what is a presidency? Presidency is their major settlement where most of the factories are located. Okay, so friends, what happened that in the beginning Britishers established their factories with the permissions of Indian rulers. It means that whenever they had to establish any factory, okay, whenever they had to establish any factory, first of all they took permission from the local ruler. For example, they took permission from Emperor Jahangir before establishing their factory in Surat. Similarly, whenever they established any factory, so first of all they took permission from the rulers, and after that they used to establish their factories. Okay friends, so then came the Charter of 1726. So what was the Charter of 1726? So friends, the Charter of 1726 authorized the governor and council of 3 presidencies, means Bengal, Madras and Bombay, to make law. Friends, Calcutta and Bengal are same. Why? Because Calcutta is a place in Bengal. So in some books you will find Bengal presidency and in some books you will find Calcutta presidency. So I will use these terms interchangeably, Bengal and Calcutta. Okay, so what this charter did, this charter authorized the governor and the council of Bengal, Madras and Bombay presidencies to make law. Now what does it mean? So friend, what happened earlier? What was the practice earlier? That who was making law for the affairs of company? Who was making law? The board of directors were making law for the affairs of company. Now who were board of directors? So I have told you in the beginning of this lecture that the charter of 1600 vested all the management powers of the company in governor and a council of 24 members. Okay, and this governor and his council consisting of 24 members had the power to make law. Okay, so this governor and these 24 members were called as the board of directors. Okay, so they were responsible for taking any decisions of the company and they were the authority who were making law for the company. But friends, they were sitting in Britain and they had never been to India. They never came to India. Okay, and they were sitting in Britain. So they were unaware of the conditions prevailing in India. They didn't knew that what was happening in India, and due to which their legislations were not good. For example, if I give you the power to make law, if I give you the power to make law, okay, and you don't know the conditions of my area, you don't know that what are the conditions prevailing in my area, then will you be able to make law for my area? No. Why? Because actually you don't know what is happening in my area. What is the nature of people? What are the customs of my area? What are the local laws of my area? So you will not be able to make law for my area. Similarly, the board of directors were sitting in Britain and the company was working in India. So board of directors were unaware of the situations prevailing in India. So they were not making good laws for India, and that's why company was facing losses. So what the Charter of year 1726 did? The Charter of year 1726 provided the law making power to governor and the council. Okay, so in each presidency there was a governor. Okay, in each presidency there used to be a governor and a council to assist the governor. So the Charter of year 1726 vested the law making power in governor and his council. Okay, so now governor and his council could make law for their presidency. Okay, so the governor of Madras could make law for Madras, governor of Bengal could make law for Bengal, governor of Bombay and his council could make law for Bombay. Okay, now friends, there were certain limitations on the law making power of the governor of presidencies. Okay, why? Because so there were certain limitations. So what were these limitations? So first limitation was that the law made by the governor and his council should be in accordance to the laws and customs of the Britain. Okay, so any law made by the governor should not violate any pre-existing law of Britain. It should not violate any custom of Britain. Okay, and if it will violate, then it will be declared null and void. Means then it will not be considered as law. The second condition was that law should be logical. Okay, means governor should not make any illogical law. Okay, law should be logical, law should be consistent, law should be sound, law should be according to the policies of the company, law should be sound for the company. So law should be logical. And the third limitation was that it should be approved by the court of directors in writing. It means that any law made by the governor will not be enforced until it is not approved by the board of directors sitting in Britain in writing. So what is the process to make law? First of all, governor and his council. So governor and the council of a presidency will make law for that presidency. After that, that law will be sent to Britain for the approval of board of directors. And when the board of directors will give their approval in writing, then only that law will be enforced. Okay. Now friends, governor also had the power to punish those who violate the law. Okay. So it means that the governor, the charter of year 1726 granted the power to legislate and judicial power to the governor. Okay. So now governor had legislative powers and judicial powers. Okay. Legislative powers, why? Because he had the power to make law, and judicial power means he had the power to punish those who violate the law. Friends, this act is not taught by any teacher, and you will not find this act in any book. There are very few books in which you can find this act, but this is very important act and it can be asked by UPSC also. Why? Because this was the act, this was the charter which transferred the legislative powers from the Britain to India. Why? Because earlier who had the legislative powers? Earlier the board of directors sitting in Britain had the legislative power. But after the charter of 1726, the power to legislate, the legislative powers were transferred from board of directors sitting in Britain to governor and his council sitting in India. Okay, so this was the act which provided the power to make law to the British Indian government for the first time. So this was a very important act. Why? Because this act gave the power to make law to British Indian government for the first time. So for the first time, British Indian government got the power to make law. Okay. So friends, question can also be asked in prelims, like which charter act, which of the following charter acts transferred the legislative powers from the board of directors of Britain to the governor and his council in India. So the answer is charter of year 1726. Now friends, till now Britishers only had trading role or commercial role in India. They were not included in the politics of India. So how Britishers get involved in the politics of India? So to know the answer of this question, first of all I will tell you a brief background about the history of India and Bengal. Okay. So friends, what happened that in year 1707 Aurangzeb died. Aurangzeb was the last powerful Mughal emperor. Okay, Mughal Empire was the empire which was ruling in India at that point of time. Mughal Empire was the biggest empire in India and it was ruling all over India. And Mughal Empire had many provinces. For example, Bengal was the province of Mughal Empire. Awadh was the province of Mughal Empire. Okay, so Mughal Empire was a very big empire. And in 1707, Aurangzeb died. And Aurangzeb was the last powerful ruler of Mughal Empire. So after Aurangzeb, Mughal Empire started to weaken. Okay, so Mughal Empire became very big after Aurangzeb. Now there was no powerful ruler at the center, so all the provincial rulers, all the provincial Nawabs started to claim their autonomy. They started to assert their autonomy. They started to assert their independence. Why? Because this is a very basic human nature that everyone needs independence. Everyone needs autonomy. You also need autonomy. Okay. So what happened? So as there was no powerful ruler at the center, so all the Nawabs and rulers of the provinces started to assert their autonomy. They started to assert their independence. Now, what does it mean? They started taking decisions on their own. They stopped paying revenue to the Mughal Empire. Because what was the practice earlier? That these provinces were paying revenue, a good amount of revenue to Mughal Empire. Okay. And if any decision was taken, it was first approved by the Mughal emperor, and after that the decision was implemented. Okay, but as these Nawabs started to claim their autonomy, so they stopped to pay revenue to Mughal emperor. They started to take their decisions on their own. Friends, Bengal was a very big province at that point of time, because Bengal had the portion of current Bangladesh, West Bengal, Odisha. Okay, so Bengal was a very big province. Okay, so what were the condition of Bengal at that point of time? So let's discuss. So friends, Murshid Quli Khan became the Nawab of Bengal in 1719. Okay, Murshid Quli Khan became the Nawab of Bengal in 1719. As all the Nawabs were claiming their autonomy, so Murshid Quli Khan also claimed his autonomy. He also asserted his independence. He also asserted his autonomy. But what he did, he maintained formal or symbolic links with central Mughal ruler. Now, what is the meaning of formal link or what is the meaning of symbolic link? It means that he used to pay a very less amount of revenue to Mughal emperor. Okay, he was paying very less amount of revenue to Mughal emperor. Okay, for example, if the revenue of Bengal is 100 rupees, then he was only paying 4-5 rupees to Mughal emperor, and Mughal emperor was weak, so he was unable to say anything. He used to do key appointments in the name of Mughal emperor. Okay, means he was appointing his officials on his own. He was appointing his officials by the application of his own discretion. Okay, he was not asking from Mughal emperor that should I appoint this person or not. He was appointing his officials on his own, but he was only giving the name of Mughal emperor to these appointments. Means all the appointments were made in the name of Mughal emperor. Means Mughal emperor was the emperor for only namesake. Who had the real power? Nawab had the real power. Mughal emperor only had the power for namesake. He was only the nominal head. Okay, he was not the real head. Who was real head? Nawab was the real head. So actually the decision of the appointment was taken by Nawab. But the name, that in whose name the appointment will be made, the appointments were made in the name of Mughal emperor. Okay. He used to get his coins minted in the name of Mughal emperor. Means there was the name or photo or something like that of Mughal emperor on the coins of Bengal. But actually who was maintaining the treasure? Okay, who was maintaining the coin minting industry? Actually the Nawab was maintaining the coin minting industry. Nawab was regulating the entire minting of the coins. Nawab had the control of the treasure. Okay, and Friday prayers were made in the name of Mughal emperor. Means Friday prayers means namaz. So namaz was made in the name of Mughal emperor. Okay, so these were the symbolic things. Okay, so minting the photo, mentioning the photo of Mughal emperor on the coins. Okay, reciting the prayers in the name of Mughal emperors, making the appointment in the name of Mughal emperors, giving him a very small amount of revenue. For example, 4 rupees out of 100. So these were just symbolic relationships. Means what he wanted to show, that we are the part of Mughal empire. Okay, but actually he was independent. Actually Bengal became independent. Why? Because the major amount of revenue was kept by him for his own expenditure and for the expenditure of Bengal. Okay, who was taking the decisions of appointment? Okay, so actually Nawab was taking all the decisions regarding the appointment. Okay, it was the Nawab who was applying his own discretion to make the appointments, who was regulating the entire coin minting industry, who was maintaining the treasure. Okay, so it was the Nawab who was maintaining the entire treasure. Okay, and Friday prayers are just symbolic, means you are using the name of Mughal emperor in your namaz or Friday prayers. So actually Nawab had the real power. Nawab was the real ruler, and Mughal ruler was only for namesake. There was only the name of Mughal ruler, and the real powers were vested in Nawab. Okay. So what happened then? Friends, Ali Vardi Khan was the military commander or military general of Murshid Quli Khan. Okay. So what happened? He rose to eminence with the help of Jagat Seth brothers. Now who were Jagat Seth brothers? Jagat Seth brothers were traders and they were very rich. Okay, Jagat Seth brothers were two brothers. They were traders and they were very rich, and they were very influential persons. Okay, they had a very good say in the court of Bengal. They had a very good influence in the court of Bengal. Okay, so with the help of Jagat Seth brothers, Ali Vardi Khan rose to eminence. Okay, so Ali Vardi Khan increased his power with the help of Jagat Seth brothers, and when Murshid Quli Khan died, Ali Vardi Khan became the ruler with the help of Jagat Seth brothers. Why? Because Ali Vardi Khan will do whatever Jagat Seth brothers will say. So Jagat Seth brothers made him the Nawab of Bengal, and Ali Vardi Khan became the Nawab of Bengal with the help of Jagat Seth brothers. Okay. Then what happened? Ali Vardi Khan died in 1756. Okay. And with the death of Ali Vardi Khan, there started the succession dispute in Bengal. Okay. What is succession dispute? So the succession dispute started between Ghasiti Begum and Sirajud-Dowla. Who was Ghasiti Begum? Ghasiti Begum was the daughter of Ali Vardi Khan, and Sirajud-Dowla was the grandson of Ali Vardi Khan. So succession dispute means Ghasiti Begum wanted to become queen and Sirajud-Dowla wanted to become king. Okay, so both of them wanted to be in power. Okay, so Ghasiti Begum wanted to become queen and Sirajud-Dowla wanted to become king, and there started the dispute or conflict between them. So after a long conflict, finally Sirajud-Dowla defeated Ghasiti Begum and Sirajud-Dowla emerged victorious. Okay, and in year 1757, Sirajud-Dowla became the Nawab of Bengal. So friends, that's all for today. In the next class, we will continue our discussion with Sirajud-Dowla, and I will tell you that how Britishers took advantage of the conflicts and conspiracies going on in Bengal, and how Britishers became the political master of Bengal and then rest of India. Okay, and once Britishers got the political power, they made many laws for the India. Okay, they made many laws, and all these laws became the basis of our constitution. Okay. Friends, in this lecture, I have taught you the history of Bengal in very short. Okay, because here our main focus is to understand the historical background or historical evolution of our constitution. When I will take the lectures of modern Indian history, then I will teach you the history of Bengal in a very detailed manner. The advent of Europeans, advent of Britishers, history of Bengal, history of India, each and everything in a very detailed manner. So friends, at last I request you all to like the video, share the video, comment, share this channel to all the people you know who are preparing for UPSC, so that they can get a huge benefit out of this course. Till then, take care of yourself. Thank you.